Hello, Chris Guthrie here, and in this video we'll be covering how to find a supplier. This is a really important module because we're going to be talking about how to find a supplier that will provide you a high quality product at a good price and that also will communicate with you very well. So there are a few different challenges, of course, when you're finding a supplier, and we're going to be discussing all those throughout this video. The first question they might have is, where can you source these products? Well, typically you're going to be looking at a domestic supplier, so this would be one local in the US area, or international supplier, and typically that means China. And domestic, even for those of you that are listening that are outside of the US, domestic pretty much is referring to the US because we're talking about selling physical products on Amazon.com using the Fulfilled by Amazon warehouses located here in the US. So domestic, US suppliers, international, typically China. So you might be wondering, where would you want to use a domestic supplier? Well, if you're doing something like a skin cream or a supplement, something that goes on your skin or in your body, some type of a consumable that people consume and use, then you're going to want to go with a domestic US-based supplier because there's just a lot more quality controls in place versus using a supplier over in China, where there's a little more of a lenient policy, I guess you could say, that those suppliers might have for their government versus what they have here in the US. So to be safe, if you're going to be doing that, you're looking at domestic. Now, that does leave pretty much everything else to be international. I only source products from China, and I'll probably only source them from China going forward as I grow my business as well. Now, how do you actually find suppliers? There's a few different ways you can do it. First one would be Google method. So you really would just simply search what you're interested in selling. So you would search, for example, the product that you're interested in selling, and then private label, or the product and then supplier. And you're basically just going to go through these listings. Now, when you're doing this on Google, you're going to see a lot of listings on Alibaba, which we'll talk about in a moment. But what you're looking for are these companies that might be lesser known suppliers that you can then reach out to, call, email, or whatever, and have a conversation about potentially sourcing their products. Alibaba is the method that I specifically used. And again, you're going to be wanting to search for what you're interested in selling. And on the Alibaba website, there are a few different things you can do, and there's search criteria that you can check. So you want to check gold supplier, you want to check on-site check, and you can also do assess supplier. In my case, I found a gold supplier that also had an on-site check, but I didn't do, it wasn't an assessed supplier. So you don't necessarily have to have that, but these criteria just help to further indicate how serious they are or how much more of a legit operation they are. You can also look at the revenue that the business is doing as well, and that's another indicator that you can look at. Now, the goal, of course, during this process is to find the manufacturer, because when you're on Alibaba, you don't necessarily know if you're dealing with a direct manufacturer or a rep that works with the manufacturer, where they're taking a little bit of money out of the order that you're placing with them and keeping them for themselves. The advantage, of course, is if you can find the actual manufacturer, then you can get the best pricing possible. Now, some manufacturers actually don't have a sales force. They might use reps specifically so that they don't have to deal with that, and they can just focus on what they do best, which is manufacturing products. So sometimes there's just not really an option. But for the most part, this is a challenge, admittedly, because you don't really ever know for sure, because they could take photos of any building and say, oh, this is our warehouse, and you wouldn't really know. The only way you can really know for sure is if you flew to China, and even then you might not know. So this is just something to be aware of, but even still, if you look at the numbers, which we'll get to later on here in this video, they can still work out into your favor, regardless of whether or not you found the actual manufacturer or if you're dealing with a rep. That's just something to be aware of when you're looking at Alibaba. All right, so let's continue this example I've shared before of the barbecue grill brush. And we go to Alibaba.com, and you can search for barbecue grill brush, and there's 9,456 products at the time I searched. The volume might be different for you at the time you search, but here's where the different criteria are that you can check. So gold supplier, on-site check, assessed supplier. So you can play with those settings and search, do a bunch of different various searches, and then you can start contacting suppliers. You can see the contact supplier orange buttons on those listings. And you can also look at the response rate, right? If you see that there's a higher response rate, then of course they're more likely to respond to you than suppliers that have a lower response rate, right? I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, Alibaba, and so they've obviously set things up to be very easy for you to use. So this is a product that I found on the first page when I was doing my search for barbecue grill brush. And I've circled a few things underlined and used some arrows here to highlight some things. Now, first of all, it's the price, right? 50 cents to $1.50. So this price range is typically because they have multiple different products, most likely, which we'll get to in a moment. But the other point I want to point out is the minimum order quantity, or the MOQ as it's called. They say 1,000 pieces for this option, right? So if it was 1,000 at 50 cents, that would be $500, or 1,000 at $1.50, that would be $1,500. So there's quite a bit of difference, and you might want to go with less when you first start, right? Because you're just starting out as a smaller business and you want to do a trial order. Well, there's a way around that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The last thing I want to point out is the supply ability. You can see here 1 million pieces per month. That is an absolutely huge volume. So if you were to go with a supplier, you know that they're going to be able to supply a huge amount of products. Because in some cases, you might find a supplier that can do a certain amount of volume for you, but then as you grow your business, you might actually have to go and find another supplier. And if you can just find a supplier that can meet your needs now and then also in the future, in the first place, it's going to save you that extra hassle later on down the line when you're selling a lot of units and you're dealing with the fact that you need to find a new supplier to help keep up with demand. So these are 3 elements that we're going to be discussing as we do this process. So another thing I want to point out too, and this is something that we could have covered in the picking your product section, but I also wanted to highlight it here because this is typically where you're going to talk to a supplier to see about how you can actually differentiate your product. So if you remember that example I shared earlier, the plastic grill brush, they had some negative reviews that I read here, and actually this is a really good strategy. If you look at the negative reviews for products that you might be interested in selling, you can find various things that people don't like about them that you could then incorporate into your better product. So you can see this person saying low-grade plastics. On literally the very first use, a huge portion of the plastic around the bristles immediately and completely melted. So these are obviously very negative things that you don't want to have happen with your product because you don't want to have 1-star reviews. Now, if you look at this other one, this is a customer saying sometimes it's just worth it to spend a little bit more. You don't want that plastic and those metal brush shards in your grill and potentially in your food. And then again saying spend a little more. This is actually the same customer. So they bought this other product and then found that it didn't really meet their needs, and so they bought a higher quality product afterwards and gave it a great review. So that shows to further reinforce that when you're selling on Amazon, the quality of your product really does matter quite a bit, and using these negative reviews, they can help you come up with ideas to differentiate. So again, reading more reviews for this product. It says the brush works. It might work better if the bristles were longer. Downside is that it does not last long. Another person saying, I'm a little disappointed the bristles aren't longer and stiffer. So those are 2 elements right there that you can think about when you're getting into the product mode of finding a supplier. So you might say, okay, I want to find a barbecue grill brush with longer bristles. I want to find one that lasts longer. I want to find bristles that are stiffer so that people are able to more easily scrape the food off of their barbecue grill. So you really want to put yourself in the mindset of your customer, and one of the best ways to do that is by looking at reviews of products that are already on Amazon. All right, so once you've thought about that as you've been in your process, you can go and reach out to your suppliers. And I actually did contact the supplier just to give you an example. And I said, hello, I'd like to get a sample of your grill brush, and I'm looking at making a 250 unit trial order. Now I use that language, trial order, because it signifies that we're just starting out with you, and so we want to start with a lower order to begin with, but in the future we'll go to a larger order. And the idea behind this is that way you can get started for less money. This isn't a business that you can start with exactly 0 money, because you do need to spend some money on your initial order, but at 250 units, that's not too much money to start for business that you can grow on the side and eventually turn into a very sizable income stream. So I continue by saying, can you please provide me pricing for the following quantities as we expect to ramp up our orders quickly? So this kind of serves to illustrate that we're looking to grow and provide more and more orders to them. So I talk about 500, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, and 10,000. And then I also say, I'd like my brush to be very high quality. So if you have any better materials for the handle or for the wire connecting to the brush, anything that you can do that is highest quality. So I put my name and then put brand manager. All right, so how do you actually get the pricing? Well, this is actually the pricing that I got from this supplier that I reached out to. I said, hey, This is what I'm interested in. They got back to me and they gave me a few different options. They gave me a 12-inch wire brush, a 16-inch wire brush, and an 18-inch wire brush. They showed a few different price points between the handle type and whether or not it's stainless steel, the minimum order quantity being 1,000 pieces. And here you can see $1.44 US dollars for the PP handle. This is actually a polymer basically. And then it's slightly more for a stainless steel handle. And they gave, again, the minimum order quantity of 1,000. This is actually a picture, just to blow it up a little bit more, of that barbecue grill brush. And you can see that's going to be a much higher quality grill brush than something that's plastic. And you can also look at those bristles on the right hand side of the screen. They look pretty thick compared to the other example I shared earlier in these modules. Now, if you'd like to do a trial order, because again, that pricing was for 1,000 units, you can simply just go back and forth with the supplier and ask them what they can do, right? So you can say, if I want to do a trial order of 250 units, what would the pricing be for the 18-inch wire brush with the PP handle? And then this supplier came back and said it would be $1.65. So you can see it's just slightly more than the 1,000 units. So the price would then drop, of course, by 21 cents after I got to a 1,000 unit order. So you already know ahead of time you're going to be able to make more money on a per unit basis as you grow and scale this business. But if you look at that, $1.65 each for a 250 unit trial order, that's really not that much, right? That's $412.50. Now you do have to deal with shipping over from China to the US, and that's another added cost. But from the actual unit cost for the product, that's not too expensive, right? All right, so how do you actually get a sample? Well, before you get forward and do that with just one supplier, you do want to actually reach out to multiple suppliers to get your samples. And there's several reasons why you want to do this, but when you do this, you can actually reach out to them through email, but then what I usually like to do is just get them onto Skype. And that way I can talk to them always via typing. For the most part, suppliers prefer to just type because they are based in China, and so typically it's a second language for them and they feel more comfortable typing versus talking over the Skype communication over voice. But that's what I like to do with the suppliers I reach out to. And again, you want to reach out to multiple suppliers to get your samples because there are several reasons to do this. One being pricing comparisons, of course, right? One supplier you reach out to, you might find is double what the pricing is of another supplier. I've found that multiple times when I've been researching new products to sell. Another thing you might see is that the quality is going to vary between suppliers. So that's why you're going to want to get multiple suppliers to give you multiple samples. And then lastly, you also want to look at the quality of the product. If you recall, when you sell on Amazon.com, it's a marketplace based on reviews, right? When you're on Amazon.com, are you more likely to buy a product that has a 5-star rating or a 3.5-star rating? Of course, you're going to be buying the 5-star rating, which is why you want to go after higher quality products. Okay, so let's say you've gone forward and you've gotten a sample, right? So let's evaluate this process. So again, Alibaba was where I found the supplier, $1.65 per unit for a 250 unit trial order to start. They advertised 50 cents to $1.50 in their pricing, which isn't too bad, right? Because we're starting at 1/4 of their normal minimum order quantity size. And we also picked the 18-inch version, which was their most expensive. So I'm going to go ahead and get a sample of the propane polymer version and then also the stainless steel. I'm going to go ahead and pursue this product. And then ultimately you want to actually try this out, of course, right? The idea is that you want to be building a brand in a very high quality product that you're selling on Amazon, and you want it to be genuinely the best, because if you can sell something that is the best and then you have the backing of the customers that are going to love it, they're going to give you good, better reviews, which will help serve to further reinforce your sales. So of course you're going to want to actually try this out. The questions you might have are, when you're reaching out, or when you're thinking about this rather, be, do I need to increase the length of the bristles? Because if you remember before, that was one of the comments that the customers had said. Another question they said was, maybe the handle could be thicker because it was bending. That was another review that I read but didn't mention here. So these are some questions you can think about as you're doing this. Again, remember that marketplace buyers, like those on Amazon, are going to reward the quality, so you want to go high quality. Something to keep in mind as well is that as you're contacting these suppliers, typically they're always thinking in the mindset of inexpensive, right? They're always thinking about what's the least expensive thing that they can provide to you. So you want to make sure you educate them saying that, no, I want the highest quality option that you offer. because typically they do have various materials that they can use that would be better in one version of their product versus their lower tier product. All right, so how do you actually calculate the margins on a product? Let's say we're going to be selling this for $15.97, and $8.97 is roughly going to be the cost for this. Now this is just an estimate, but this is based on the unit costs, the $1.65. This can be from shipping from China, and then the FBA fees. FBA fees are the fees that Amazon charges for actually handling the fulfillment of your products. They charge you based on the category that you're shipping in, and then they also charge based on the weight of the unit and some other criteria as well. But when I added these together and did some analysis, this is roughly what it came out to. Again, this is just an estimate, but we could also do the 16-inch version to save on the minimum order quantity size and also save on the shipping. So it'd be $1.13 versus $1.44. That is a 1,000 minimum order quantity though. But if we go with this $15.97 and then $8.97 in unit cost, shipping from China, FBA fees, etc., I made it easy to show you a profit of about $7 per unit. So that's around a 40-ish% margin. Now, something to point out here, of course, is the profits that you receive from this product are going to go up the more that you sell, right? Because you're going to get lower and lower costs as you do more and more units. Eventually, you might cap out if you're starting to do thousands upon thousands of units, but by then you're going to be doing a lot more volume and also driving more and more sales, so you can be getting more and more money and it won't really matter as much. If you look at the 250 units we discussed, $1.65 for 18-inch version, 1,000 units, $1.44 for 18-inch version. Again, we're going to be saving quite a bit of money, even just going from 250 to 1,000. So let's run some quick calculations that will help you determine what it will take to get to a six-figure business. 10 sales per day would put you at about $70 in profit for this product. Multiply that out by 365, and that's $25,550. Now you might be saying, well, Chris, this is a barbecue grill brush, and most people aren't barbecuing in the winter. Well, yes, that's true. And you could also say, though, let's assume that there are going to be a lot more sales during the spring and summertime as people are getting into the barbecue mode, though, too. So let's just say, for example purposes, that it's evened out. 20 sales per day would then put you at $140 in profit, and that'd be $51,110 in profit. And that actually just happens to be just above the median U.S. household income for the 2012 census. Now, the government's always behind a little bit on those, but median household income of $51,000, and with one single product selling 20 sales per day, you could be doing more in profit than that. That's pretty great. And then at 40 sales per day, that's going to give you $280 in profit, and then $102,000 in profit as well. So that's a six-figure income from just one product. And that sounds crazy saying that, right? 6 figures in income from one product, but I know people that are selling on Amazon with a single individual product, and they're doing 6 figures per month in volume. Again, it even sounds more crazy saying that and even hearing it coming out of my mouth. But if you look at Amazon.com, they have millions upon millions of people with their credit cards stored there. They have millions and millions of Amazon Prime members who basically do all of their shopping there. They're super users that buy all sorts of products there. And if you're in the top of a specific category, you're going to be selling a lot of units, right? So this is really a truly scalable business that you can build and grow and, of course, run from anywhere in the world. Going back to the 3 rules I discussed: freedom to work wherever you want to, freedom to work whenever you want to, and ability to scale. All right, now remember too, in this scenario, the cost would actually be dropping as well. So your question might be are these numbers actually possible? Well, again, I'm pulling up my sales screenshot from I shared earlier in this module. And at the time of this recording, I'm only 4 months into selling, but I'm already close to $40,000 in sales. That's all from just one product, 40 to 50% margins. And I'm actually on track to be doing more than the U.S. median household income with, again, just this one product. Now, are my results typical? Of course not. Most people aren't out there and selling because most of the time people will watch these videos or they'll take courses and they won't take action, which just helps to serve to your advantage in case you're one of the people that does take action. But let's get back to the barbecue grill brushes. You can go ahead and do a search for yourself of barbecue grill brushes on Amazon. Now, when you do this search, ask yourself the question, can you find higher quality barbecue grill brushes that are selling at premium prices? Yes, of course you can. You can also see that people are buying them just by looking at their bestseller rank. So you want to keep this in mind as you think about the niches that you can go into. Barbecue grill brushes, of course, is one that you could go, but thousands of people are potentially going to be watching these videos, so there's going to be maybe some more competition for that now. Sorry about that. But the point, of course, is that there are premium quality products being sold in every single category on Amazon and doing exceptionally well. You don't have to sell a $7 plastic barbecue grill brush to make money. You can sell a $15.97 high quality stainless steel, long, thick bristles that really get all the food off the grill and be able to generate even more money. Then you've got the advantage of all the people on Amazon that want a high quality product leaving you great reviews. So in review, the process you'll use to find a high quality supplier is by using Google or Alibaba and then asking for the highest quality version that they offer for a product you're interested in selling. And also look for differentiating opportunities. So elements that people have complained about in other reviews of products you'd like to sell and that you could potentially incorporate into your product. After that, you're going to want to be going to contacting suppliers through email to start, and then you want to move over to Skype. Now the reason, again, for using Skype is because you can get answers more quickly. Now because they are based in a different time zone, typically you're going to be getting on later on in the evenings to talk on Skype. But this works perfectly if you have a day job and you're based within the US. Now, if you're based outside the US, your time zones will be different, of course. But for those of us in the US, then you can do that pretty well right after you get home from your day job. After that, you're going to want to go ahead and get pricing during this process and then also get several samples. Don't just get one sample. You get several samples. They are going to cost some money to get, and then you can pay those through Western Union, wire transfer, or potentially PayPal. But do go ahead and get several samples because you want to make sure you get a high quality product and you want to be able to evaluate what you're going to receive before you place your order. After that, you're going to calculate your costs, of course, and also start with a trial order. So it's pretty much the basis for this module. When you want to go ahead and find a supplier, you're going to do this using this process. And again, go for high quality because that is what will help you sell on Amazon. The better reviews you get, the more money you'll be able to make from the reviews, helping to reinforce all of the other people looking at buying the same product you're already selling. So thank you again for watching this video. And in the next video, we'll be talking all about the listing process and how you can get the most sales possible during that as well.